We are back on another edition of The Drive for oddschecker.com. I am Geoff Fienberg. With me again is Andy Lack. Andy, major season in the books. It is over.
Yeah.
Sadly, it is over. Just a couple of really fantastic majors this year. It's funny to think the Masters, just it lacked a bit of a climax that the other ones had. Certainly the US Open yesterday was fun. That golf course was amazing. Your boy, Andy
Mm.
Xander. So I've known you like of the bigger golfers in the world. Rory, Xander have always been the guys
Yeah.
you'll totally stand for. I myself, probably 4 or 5 years plus of Xander at 18, 22 to 1 in a major, even at this year's Masters. And I stopped after this year's Masters. So takes skill to be as good as me. But just your thoughts and where Xander could go next, and you and thinking about yesterday I was thinking about Andy, I was thinking about Xander's dad. There's just so many great layers, narrative street, get out of town. And I'll throw this one on you, Andy. In this generation generation, I've been doing a podcast with Pat Mayo now for about 10 years, maybe actually a little more. And even going a little before that to, we could throw Adam Scott into this time frame. Every player who we expected to meet the moment met the moment at least one time. So all
Mhm.
this talk about like this player couldn't do it, didn't do it. The only player that didn't is Ricky Fowler, that went off at
Mhm.
a lot of majors under 20 to 1, that didn't do it. And you could argue he was always a little overrated, maybe in the first place, but there was a moment in time where I thought he'd for sure get one. But yeah, everyone that had question marks that went off at a handful of majors under 20 to 1, they all won their major. They really did. Stricker, Monty, Westwood, that's an era before us. So, your thoughts on Xander, and maybe my existential thought on like, no one, we could calm down about everybody. Even Sergio went to the wire and got his.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how much I can victory lap Xander doing what I thought he was always going to do because I, like you, I did not bet him for either of these majors, whether it be Valhalla or Troon. I kind of actually had a lot of the guys swimming around him at both majors, and him winning from a financial standpoint for me ended up being like the least optimal outcome for my wallet. With that being said, I'm a golf fan first and a golf better second, and I had a giant smile on my face for each of the majors. The one tournament in recent memory that I was on Xander Schauffele was the Players, and I think the
Me
Players
too.
was the peak of Xander's a choke artist.
No, Wells Fargo. He had like
He,
a four. He was 4 or 5 clear. There was the
yeah.
Players, and then we got Wells Fargo. So it was like,
Yeah,
holy
yeah.
crap!
So
If you remember,
we kind of reached our pinnacle this year. And I actually did an hour-long podcast after the Players Championship with our friend and noted Xander Schauffele stan Chris Powers, who actually,
yeah,
knows Xander. I know members of his team personally, and I can share a quick story about why Xander's actually like such a good guy. But I basically did a hour-long podcast with Chris, basically explaining like, hey, I know that a lot of these situations haven't broke the way that Xander wanted them to, but not only is he like at worst the second or third most consistent player in the world, he's actually playing well on Sundays. Like he actually, if you go into the data, like he's really not choking these tournaments away for whatever reason. He's kind of been at the mercy of bad luck and whatever them. And I get it. You make your own luck, whatever. But the point of the podcast was basically to say, this is going to happen. And you can call him a choke artist or whatever you want, but those takes are going to age poorly. Like
poorly.
he's too good of a
Yeah,
player,
yeah.
and he's putting himself in position at too consistent of a rate. I, like you,
I
when
was
it
an
got to
apologist. Like I would never
yeah,
call
I
a
know
guy
you
like
were.
that a
I,
choke
I
artist. I
know
was
you were.
apologist
And
for way too long. Obviously, there's moments like the Players like Wells Fargo where you're frustrated as a bettor, as a fan of the guy, as someone that makes content. Like I've got to wake up tomorrow and discuss this goddamn narrative. So annoying. So it's great. And I mean, he's got questions. He's always got an answer. And he's always got an answer. And Troon presented so many questions, and no, everyone had their moments. He never did. He always stepped up. He birdied 11. The guy who birdies 11 deserved to win yesterday, and that catapulted everything, everything that went forward. And yeah, you just got to put yourself in the fight. Unlike football, Andy, there's 4 of these a year. So you just stay in the fight. If you're one of these guys, you'll knock one off. I mean, it is totally different, but honestly, last year, before Hovland won at Memorial, people called him a choke artist.
Yeah.
Like, who couldn't win big events. And then he won at Memorial. He had a great summer. He didn't win any majors. He contended in a lot. He won the FedEx Cup. His time will come. But it's just, I don't know. I've got no concerns. The only guy that feels, it's funny, the biggest major drought in golf just feels like the podcast era Rory.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the other thing I would say about Xander and getting the second major, because in fairness, like I did not think that Xander was going to win 2 majors in 3 starts. I did not think that Scotty was going to win 2 majors this year. Everyone kept saying Scotty's going to win all 4 majors. Scotty's going to win 3 majors. Scotty's going to win 2 majors. It is wildly, wildly difficult to win 2 majors in the same year. We haven't seen it since Brooks. We've only seen it a handful of times in golf history. One of the things I talked about heading into this, and this is a reason why we probably should have been higher on Xander from a betting perspective heading into the week. This is the closest that the majors have ever been to each other in a calendar year, right? So it was easier this year to get hot and play good golf and reel off a couple majors. And we saw that happen with a couple guys. Like Russell Henley finished top 10 at the Open Championship and the US Open. They were 3 weeks apart. Russell Henley played 1 time between the US Open and the Open Championship. I don't know if Russell Henley's finishing top 10 in both the US Open and the Open Championship if those majors are 6 weeks apart like they normally are, right? So this concept of a guy getting hot and winning 2 majors in a year based on the calendar, I think it's not necessarily win 2 majors in the same years, because that's still such a big mountain to climb, but I think we're going to see going forward, Geoff, like if this calendar persists, I think you're going to see guys be able to peak, in June and, play well for a couple majors in a row. They're too close together. I don't like it at all personally. But that's just the way the major calendar is right now. So we really shouldn't be that surprised that Xander was the second best player in the world heading into the PGA. He was the second best player in the world heading into the US Open, and he was the second best player in the world heading into the Open Championship. You give the second best player in the world 3 cracks at it in an 8-week stretch. It's not that inconceivable that he wins 2 or 3.
Especially a guy, as we know, like so many great players in any sports. Obviously, we see kids win right away now, and they're instantly, the best, but still part of the process, taking your lumps and showing up. And an era in the past, it's almost like you were supposed to take your lumps in the majors, and then you were supposed to win it when you were like 30, right? 28, 30, Xander's 30. Obviously, so many guys won them quick and young that it put so much more pressure, and that voice in their heads probably started to go quickly. Full credit to Xander.
Yeah.
What else? Hey, the guy contends at all the majors. Good for him. That's winning that first major. This was his second major, but winning your first major under 20-1 is also no easy feat. That's a pretty exclusive group.
You'll appreciate this story real quick, and then we'll get on to the 3M. But I've long been a defender also of Xander, just like as a personality and as a person. I don't know Xander personally. I do know his caddy Austin, who I just want to say, if we're gonna kill Rory's caddy, we should also be spending time acknowledging which caddies are unbelievable, and the edge that Xander has with Austin, and the work that Austin puts in, and the relationship that they have, and him as a guiding light. I'm not saying he's Ted Scott to Scotty, but he should be talked about in that conversation as one of the best player caddy relationships in the world. And I mean that wholeheartedly. But Xander, for the record too, a lot of these guys have fans, and I've happened to know and gotten pretty close with the shot tracker account. Xander Schauffele Legion. I played golf with him. I know the dad. I spent some time with him at Riviera and Torrey Pines. He's just a 15-year-old kid from Oregon. And Xander fully paid for and invited Xander Schauffele Legion to Scotland. And that 15-year-old kid from Oregon was inside the ropes with with Xander Schauffele's family, walking the golf course with Xander Schauffele's family. The kid was
live
touching
tweeting the shots.
Yeah, this 15-year-old kid that's a Xander Schauffele super fan. And now, Xander Schauffele may not have a ton of super fans, so whatever. I'm not saying that, Spieth or Scheffler or Rory or any of these guys wouldn't do this, but a lot of golfers wouldn't do this or wouldn't care to do this.
Yeah.
This kid was holding the freaking claret jug on the 18th green, Geoff. I'm watching Golf Central and I'm like, is that Cal?
Good for
The
that.
guy's decked out in Descente gear. And the kid, a full expenses paid trip to Scotland. The guy's holding the freaking claret jug on the 18th green. Just a 15-year-old kid from Oregon.
So
that's a Xander Schauffele fan. So listen, you could tell me Xander's not compelling. You could tell me he's not a good interview. You could tell me he's friends with Patrick Cantlay and that's why you hate him. If you don't like Xander as a person, that's a you problem.
I think Xander's great interviews, and honestly, watching him talk about anything makes me wonder why he is friends with how he is friends with Patrick Cantlay. But I'm sure people say that, some of my internet friends, they probably wonder why they're friends with me is what I should say. Okay, that was fun. I always love talking golf with Andy. We're gonna do it quick here, and just rapid fire almost through the 3M. I'll tell you, other than the other majors this year, I loved waking up to this betting board. Like this field, this betting board, this is exactly what should be happening post majors, not that elevated nonsense. We go to the top. Tony Finau 11-1, Sam Burns 18-1, Boccia now down to 22, high water mark Sahith 22, Luke Clanton, love the respect, kid hits it a mile 28, Billy 30, Heath 33, Hoagie 33. I guess I should have stopped there. I should have stopped at 30. So we'll leave it there. Quickly, though, big picture, does guys like playing the weekend at the Open mean anything to you? And I guess in that case, like Billy and Sam Burns would be who I would identify. I'm not too worried about the guys who missed the cut. I'd argue, actually, Andy, if this tournament was the week before the Open or something, Tony Finau might have been like 8-1. The way he was striking it, the way he was very popular at the Open for how he was striking it. So I'm not betting him, but I do fear him. What are your thoughts? I have made no bets in the range just mentioned.
Yeah, I do. And there are a lot of times where I would tell you, I think like travel, quote unquote emotional letdowns are overrated. I do think as somebody that, has spent some time and played some golf in the British Isles and like the variability of conditions and what those guys had to go through and the wind and the rain, and particularly what guys like Billy had to go through hitting all those high leverage golf shots in contention to win a major. I would prefer you to have missed the cut, particularly in a case like Tony Finau, where inexcusable, right? Like, we both had higher expectations for him, but he caught the wrong side of the weather draw and was like 6 over through his first 6 and probably mailed it in, a la Rory. I'm not putting a ton of stock into some of the guys missing the cut at Troon because you're getting a wildly different golf course. I made the joke already, like as viewers, this is going to be like having lunch at a Michelin star restaurant where you're seeing all the shots. We're talking some of the best golf course architecture in the world, driver off the deck, driver on par threes, like golf as it was intended to be played. And then like 7-Eleven pizza for dinner. Like this, it ain't good. It ain't good. but it's a sod farm, flat greens, water everywhere. But the point is, I mean, sorry, I had to get my TPC Twin City shot in there, but
It's okay. The
just
PGA Tour as a whole plays too many courses that just, it's the
no
same sort of
personality or
nonsense. Yeah,
character.
no
Yeah.
personality.
So
Yeah.
yeah, end of the story. Yeah, like just in a vacuum this week, Geoff. Like I absolutely prefer Finau, um, and Thagala to Burns and Horschel.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Would you put Baccia in that group? I assume you do as well.
Yeah, I'm not betting any of them either. I think if I was betting someone at the top, it'd be Luke Clanton. I think he's unbelievable. I I don't know. How much precedent do we have of guys doing it at
No,
25 to
I
1
mean,
in
I
their
remember
fifth
at the
start?
3M last year, Ludwig played those first couple rounds with Luke Donald and essentially made the Ryder Cup, like hitting
Right.
every single fairway. He put on a stripe show for Luke
Yeah.
Donald
A-
here
a-
last year.
a-
Clanton could probably put on a very similar stripe show. I expect him to play well. I'm just not betting this guy
I'm not
under
betting him either.
20 to 1.
And Jeffrey,
I do like it. It would be a great story if he did. And the thing is, let alone he's 28 to 1, you wouldn't be shocked. But I really just wouldn't be surprised at all if he did actually won. So that's so scary.
well, the thing too is Matthew Wolf won this tournament in like his fifth PGA Tour
He
start.
wasn't 28 to 1 though.
He was
Was he, Andy?
120 to 1. That's
So
the issue we're having this week. Yeah.
That's the
But
crux in the
that's
road.
what we deal with as bettors now is like you can't even be early on the guys. There's no opportunity to be early on Luke Clanton.
None. You're right.
None.
Even in that second start, he was like the favorite or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go further back. I do think Hogan. I mean, Bomber shot maker. That's a fun way. I'll probably build my card with a bit of both. Hoagie, obviously the big shot maker. Teagues, he didn't make the cut, but he spent the weekend there because he's now Ryder Cup captain. I will say I bet Taylor Pendrith this morning, Andy, at 50. He's now
Sure.
35. Here's the thing. This happened a couple weeks ago where I bet Taylor Pendrith at a huge number. He got crushed. He did absolutely nothing. So I don't care about my CLV, but I'm a big Taylor Pendrith guy. I played him this week. Also staring at Adam Hadwin as the shot maker at 50 to 1. Emiliano Grillo. He's starting to show some form. Do I trust him to win? That's a trigger I haven't pulled yet. And I'm part of the Austin Eckroat consortium now today, Andy. He is now 65 to 1 on that odds checker grid. So those are some of the shots that I have thrown. Staring at Kurt Kitayama, staring at EVR. So I am just peppering, it seems, the middle of the board. You might tell me there's guys at 110 to 1 who have the exact same chance to win at 50 to 1. And I probably couldn't even argue that. But my card looks like I am just a mid-range shooter here, Andy.
Yeah, I'm swimming around Keith Mitchell too. I haven't made the click yet, but he's like the second best ball striker in this field to Tony Finau. I don't know if he can make
He
enough
missed the
putts to
cut
win
at the
this golf.
CUDA. That doesn't
I
scare
know
you?
it's not
That's
it does. It's why I haven't made the click yet. But
right.
I don't know how many other options we have. Like my favorites at the top are Luke Clanton.
So
and
are you
Keith
thinking
Mitchell.
bomber? You're thinking bomber more like
No, I mean distance helps anywhere, but this golf course is less correlated with distance than I think people think. It's more correlated with approach play and putting. The way that I broke
so
it
then
down,
why aren't you betting JT Poston? I'm staring at a 40 to 1.
I'm thinking about it. I mean, the way that I broke this golf course down, I would say, um, you can lose this tournament with your driver, but you need to win this tournament with your iron play and putting. So there's water everywhere. You need to keep the ball in play off the tee. Like the year that Cameron Champ won, he clubbed down a lot for the most part. But I'm really looking at spike approach players and putters. And for me, the guys that I bet three guys at 80 to 1. That's all I have. So I got some room, but Gim 80, Novak 80, Johnny Vegas 80, all on Bet Phil.
Hey, listen, you got to even just use that odds checker grid to know wherever you're making your bets responsibly that you're getting the best number available. Geez, Andy is like kind of just shot maker team no putt. right? Gimme
Yeah, you
Novak
have to either,
Nation.
yeah, you got to either be, I mean, Novak's a good putter. You got to either be like elite approach play and, either elite approach play or putting. One of the two you have to have. And those three guys um, happen to have far more on the approach play side than the putting. Vegas is a tremendous driver too, both long and straight, and has played well at this golf course before. So those are the three moves I've made. It's a tough board, man. I didn't wake up this morning with a ton of guys I needed to fire on. So
No, and
I'm
unfortunately for me, there's like I said, this is the sort of field I like, but it is lacking a lot of even like my mid-range favorites. So like you, there's just not a ton of names that I'm beholden to. But I don't know. I kind of choose my own adventure. My shot maker of choice, shot maker putter, Adam Hadwin. He just missed the Olympics by a nose hair. So that's a bet for me. I'm double barreled actually up on the Canadians, Austin Eckroat as well in the chamber. Um, yeah, even
cool.
Griot is. I
I
mentioned
like
him
Ekro
earlier.
too, for the
I
most
could I
part.
could get
Yeah.
behind Andy. He's only got 3 bets in. Follow him. You'll get the rest of his betting card. If you did have to make a move though, Andy, right now, like sub 50 to 1, like where are you leaning? It is still Keith Mitchell.
Keith Mitchell and Clanton, probably. I mean, either that or Finau. Like,
I don't
I
think
like.
that is
I mean, I'm not betting Finau now. I already have three guys at 80 to 1. I mean, maybe I could fit him, but I just, yeah. I mean,
he's
that or
11 to 1 across the board. I think that's gone up a tick today. Obviously a lot of bettors were scorned by him last week and just don't even want to bet him this week. I he's so good. If he's got it, he could bully this field certainly. And if Sam Burns isn't like in a fog from being overseas, he could bully these guys as well. But I'm a mid-range shooter. Andy's pulling up. Andy's pulling up from downtown at
Mhm.
the moment. So for Andy, I'm Geoff. We'll be back next week. Really excited to get to talk Olympics.
Ooh.
I was looking at the field today. The back end seems really weak, but it's literally like a live PGA super field, miss it without Bryson in some ways.
Yeah, I haven't dove into it at all. I'm pretty familiar with like Golf National, which is like just a pure accuracy test. So, I think Scotty and Colin Morikawa will probably be hard to
Morikawa.
beat.
I have not made a Morikawa bet all year. People have gotten all those second places. I've had my own losers. Morikawa, Alex Noren, Tommy Fleetwood were the names I was eyeing.
Yeah,
Maybe a little
God.
Tom Kim, Corey Connors. That's a long list, but that's who I started to look at today. And I don't even know if I said Alex Noren. Obviously, I couldn't bet all those guys, but I'm super excited for that at Le Golf National. We'll be excited. We'll talk it next week. Medals on the line, maybe player of the year as well, if one of them could bring it home. For
Ooh.
Andy, I'm Geoff. We out.